early today. I'm not staying up past 10 p.m., past 11 p.m., past 12 a.m., past 1 a.m. to do this. Sorry if I lost my voice. Um, was a bit dehydrated uh, running earlier in 88-degree weather, so kind of lost my voice. And I'll be drinking some water a lot throughout this live stream to make up for the dehydration. So my voice won't be able to go that high. Hopefully, you guys can hear me though. Yesterday, in my previous live stream, I celebrated the fact that I've hit over 1,000 subs. And, I had a lighthearted discussion about hip hop, who were the best rappers and who won the rap beefs and all that sort of stuff. Towards the end, the last hour and a half, it veered off of hip hop. But I didn't mind because, like I said, this was all just about celebrating that I hit over 1,000 subs, which took me about a year and a half to do just because I only do this as a hobby part time. This isn't a job. I don't get paid for it. I'm not monetized. And I wasn't doing it full time in the aims of becoming monetized. So that's why it took so long to get monetized. But now that I have hit the 1,000 subs, I am gonna keep aiming for more. One watcher said that give me a second, Emil. How are you, by the way? Um, one watcher, by the way, said when I hit 2,000 subs, he wants me to do a War Machine or Iron Patriot cosplay. I told him I'll do it when I hit 10,000 subs, and the only reason he said that is because I get constant comparisons to Don Cheadle, the actor who played who played Colonel Rhodes in the MCU, and I don't think I look like Don Cheadle, but I don't mind the comparison. Although I really don't think I look like him. Other people say I look like that David Goggins, and that's fine by me to call me David Goggins. That dude is a absolute beast. Once I looked up his bio, he's a former Navy SEAL and an ultra marathoner. I have still yet to do a full marathon, much less an ultra marathon. So, and he's a triathlete. So if I can hit those platitudes that he's hit in his athletic career, I'd be more than happy to have that comparison. So you said, what's my favorite type of staircase wood? Oak, maybe? I've never thought about it. I didn't know that there was different types of wood for staircases. I mean, I know there's different types of wood, of course, but I haven't thought about it. And again, guys, sorry for my lost voice, but I was running in extreme heat earlier, so kind of got a little dehydrated and lost my voice a little bit. What's up, Hayden? I'm not shouting out your name because that's crazy. What's up, Hayden? So, in the meanwhile, this stream is gonna be about interracial relationships and stuff like that. Someone was asking me about that yesterday, and I told him I wasn't talking about that today because I wanted to celebrate, hitting over 1,000 subs and talk about something fun like hip hop. I wasn't trying to talk about serious stuff. He wanted to talk about my preferences in women and why I'm not pro-black and all this other sort of stuff. And I told him we can save that for another day. The username for the guy was Kunta Kinte, which was kind of an inkling of the sort of stuff that he was on, as far as I guess his own personal views. But the ironic thing is he's not even American, and he's using the name Kunta Kinte, which is a name of character a semi-fictional character that's well known here in America for older folks. Probably not for people who are millennials or Gen Z, but for like Gen X, baby boomers, silent generation, I'm pretty sure they're all familiar with the name Kunta Kinte from Roots, which was a TV miniseries, which is where the guy in Africa got his YouTube handle. But it was before it was a TV miniseries. It was based on a actual semi biographical novel by the writer Alex Haley, which originally people thought that it was a historical piece of work. Then we later realized that Alex Haley fictionalized a lot of that stuff, which is cool. I mean, he's a writer. He can write historical fiction if he wants, but he claimed it was like a sort of a biographical work of his own family's um, ancestral roots, but it was somewhat made up, as is his prerogative to do so. Hayden, you kept asking that, and like I said, um, go ahead. Chris says, "Hi, what's up, Chris?" So yeah, we can have the discussion on interracial relationships or pro-black issues and all that sort of stuff. I'm not even sure if he's going to be online right now. If so, that's his issue. I did promise that I would talk about those issues, but um, you know, I I don't have a an alert to send to people to let them know that I'm going to talk about the topic that they were interested in. So, um, what's up, Mr. Sigma? I don't get it. Maybe that's for someone else. Whatever my opinions on gender pay gap, do you believe in it? That's a subject for another day. Not talking about that today. Can stick to the subject or wait to that day that I talk about it. What's up, Kevin? So my topic is um, interracial relationships and whether you know black guys have a responsibility to be pro-black in their dating choices and stuff like that. And that's because someone brought it up yesterday, and I told him I wasn't going to talk about it yesterday because I was just talking about like lighthearted uh, conversation about hip hop and stuff like that. Because I wanted to celebrate, hitting over 1,000 subs, and I didn't really want to talk about anything serious or political or anything like that. So I said we can do that another day. So I'm going to just do that today. Pro or con? So I myself, I am in an interracial relationship. If anyone has seen my previous videos discussing my wife or some of the videos with my wife in it, I've had, I've posted some videos, not with her like talking with me or talking with anyone else, but just little snippets of her doing things like she goes hiking and traveling with this travel group of hers, and they actually climbed to the summit of Mount Apo, which is the tallest mountain in the Philippines. So now she's a certified mountaineer. Um, and I've shown some other little short videos of her, um, doing her Taylor Swift stuff. When her Taylor Swift's movie came out last year, the Eras concert tour, she and a bunch of her Swifty buddies actually had a group that they brought fans to go see the release of the movie at one of the largest malls there in that country in the Philippines, and the people were in the movie theaters like you know just lit, like having fun, like they were at a live concert. So I've shown stuff like that of her, but I haven't really shown anything direct of her. And I said I would after I hit 1,000 subs. So she is planning to do something for me this the end of this week actually. But Yeah, I don't have a problem with international relations. I mean, interracial relationships. That's what I'm. That's my preference. And the whole pro-black stuff to me is pointless. A teenager, just for that, you're gone. I don't have time for idiots. So yeah, if you say anything about Mrs. Contrarian or whatever, you just automatically blocked from my channel forever because I don't give a fuck about any of you. To be honest, I don't get paid from this. So unlike other YouTubers who have to you know suck up to their audience, I don't do that shit. I make a living in real life and I can fight. So if you're a troll, you can suck my dick. Straight up. Hayden says, I personally don't believe it's a good idea. I think, however, it's a matter of personal preference. Yeah, it's a matter of personal preference. Like, um, this is something particular to the black community. So, I'm opening up the conversation to everyone because I don't believe in this idea amongst some black folks that certain topics can't be discussed in the open outside of the black community. Like, to me, that's lame because that means you're not open to ideas that challenge your your narrative. So I don't mind other people chiming in the conversation as long as it's respectful. But I get tired of these pro-blackity black folks, and some of these guys have YouTube channels that talk dumb shit like O'Shea Duke Jackson. Like, he's a fucking clown, and I don't care. What's up, 6K? You're gone too, Mark. Um, Hayden on hiatus says only restricting the access of topics to one group in itself is racism. It's not racism. It's okay. So the thought is amongst different demographics, especially like let's say like marginalized groups or um, you know ethnic minorities or whatever, is that you have certain discussions amongst each other that you don't want in the mainstream because they're not a part of that conversation. So I understand that. But when it comes to something that goes beyond that community itself, then I don't see the problem with opening up the conversation beyond that community. So, for instance, if you're talking about interracial relationships, by its very definition, interracial relationships, then I think that other folks can have a say in it, right? But, it's one of those things that only likes to be discussed within the community just because certain folks don't want you talking about it. Black women. But yeah, that's 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 why. But I don't think but in itself it's racist. Rebound session says cuz just made 6K last month off YouTube. Got to take the pros and cons with it. What which guy you're referring to? You talking about O'Shea or you talking about someone else? Lifeguard Drillers at South London in the chat. What's up, Lifeguard Drillers? I always enjoy my folks from the British Isles chiming in because I actually have a lot of folks from the UK that watch, which is cool actually. It's always great to know that I have people internationally that watch. Why aren't they part of the conversation? Who's keeping them out? Well, I guess you didn't hear the sarcastic cough, but I kind of hinted at what I was saying. I said, black women. But yeah, uh, I have no problem being blunt. So, but yeah, the whole and it's well, I shouldn't just say black women. It's black women and the hoteps for folks who don't know what the hoteps are, they're basically these pro-black guys who only are hotep online. Like you never meet hoteps in real life. You only see them online. Like they'll actually have hotep in their name sometimes, and it comes from the joke because they be always talking about Imhotep, this guy from ancient Egypt who, by the way, wasn't black, which is ironic in itself. And they have this very misguided image of history and of the roots of foundational black Americans and their culture stemming from its African heritage. So they're they're wrong-headed in that sense. So both the hoteps and some black women want to keep the conversation in house, and I don't see the point when, if we're talking about interracial relationships, then the people who, whom we aim to date probably have a conversation in this as well. Let me scroll back up, guys, so I can catch everyone's comments. Hayden on hiatus says, able to define minority. How would you be able to say that minority wants to shut out people to be a part of the conversation if the minority is trying to become a part of the group? So you're muddling what I'm talking about. So you have ethnic minorities, which means they, by definition, are not the minority population within that given society. So we're talking about here in America. I'm not sure where you are, Hayden, but black people make up about 12, 13% of the American population. So by definition, they are an ethnic minority. They're also a marginalized group because of um, economic disenfranchisement. So they're not always the same marginalized groups and ethnic minorities, because they are ethnic minorities who are not marginalized groups, which in itself is problematic because some people here, because they're social justice warriors or whatever you want to call them, or woke, or all into identity politics, they will refuse the status of ethnic minority to some demographics just because they're not also a marginalized group. And that happens on the political left with certain leftists, progressives, and liberals, that for them ethnic minorities are marginalized groups, which is in itself a sort of racism, because not every ethnic minority is a marginalized group. And even within marginalized groups, not every individual feels that marginalization. And if they don't identify with such marginalization, then they're ostracized from the group, usually from white liberals. So, for instance, Asians and Jewish people are often left out of that category, ethnic minority, just because they're not a marginalized group by the standards of leftists and progressives. So, when I'm talking about ethnic minority, I'm talking about anyone who's not of the white mainstream in America. That's what I mean. Like I'm keeping it simple. James said, "Hey there, what's up, James?" Grill says, "What's your thoughts on Charleston White?" That's like the podcaster or whatever, right? Um, he has issues. If we're talking about that podcaster, the little skinny guy with the cockeyed, um, like he tries to kick knowledge sometimes, but then on the other hand, he's a troll. So it's like you can't do both. Like you can't try to be all politically conscious on one end, and then you're a troll on the other, and then you think it's okay to to joke about um sex assault on certain women just because you don't like them. Like during the whole anti-Asian hate stuff, he was coming out against Asians and saying that that people should grape these women because he doesn't like them. When he got into a beef with the rapper and podcaster Math Hoffa, this dude joked about assaulting his kids. So I don't take Charleston White seriously. Like, he can talk all that conscious stuff, but if he thinks that he can just joke about hurting women from a from a group a ethnic group that he doesn't like, or that he can joke about hurting someone's kids because he doesn't like that particular person, then I can't rock with him. Antoine Skrillex says, "Keep up the good work." Thank you, Antoine. Rebound Session says, "I'm referring to the 30 people that did. Let's try and take it more serious and be number 31." I'm I'm lost. I'm sorry. James Eric says, "I'm a white guy with a black girl." That's cool. Hayden on hiatus says, "Did you see my question?" I think I did, but we're behind in the comments. I'm always going to be behind where the last comments, the latest comments are, because I want to try to address everyone's comments that's worth addressing. Um, Hayden on hiatus says, "Don't mix the uneducated with those willing to discuss and contribute to the conversation." I'm not. I was trying to be clear. I was saying, for my own purposes, I'm keeping it simple. When I'm referring to minority, I'm referring to ethnic minorities within American society. Um, and like I said, anyone who's not basically of Northwestern European stock would probably be a minority by definition. Throughout our U.S. Census and all that sort of stuff. And you're going to actually see a further divide in the black population, because the newest census will finally allow black Americans to separate themselves from African and Caribbean people, whom a lot of us are starting now not to consider part of the part of our kinfolk anymore, because they have set themselves apart in many ways from us, and they don't share our history and culture in America that we've established since the last 400 years, since 1619. They've come here as immigrants. We didn't come here as immigrants. We came here as the American descendants of slavery, or ADOS, or what we call foundational black Americans. So we separate ourselves from people of African ancestry who came from the African continent, or came from the Caribbean, or came from Latin America. We don't consider them the same as us. Not anymore, if ever. But Eric DeGuapo is back. He said hello, early stream today. Yeah, I'm trying to do it early. I don't want to do any more late night ones, because it messes up my whole date, my whole next day. Jorge Cabrera says, "You look like you should be in a war machine and explaining to Iron Man why he's an idiot." Yeah, I know. Everyone says I look like Don Cheadle. If I ever meet the guy, I'm gonna tell him that people say that and see what he thinks. Like, if I see him at a comic book convention, I don't know if he does the I don't know if he does the comic convention circuit or not. But if I do, I'm probably gonna um, let him know that people always give me his comparisons. Although, like I said, when I was younger, I got more comparisons to Omar Epps. Kevin always says they are still American. Whom are you referring to? Texas Aggie Network says, "Them franchise boys." Hey, let me stop. That was about to. uh, Hayden Laheda says, "How could you still be a minority if you were to be able to speak and vocalize yourself as one? If we are looking from an American standpoint, we're all one body, one person." That you're misunderstanding. That's not what minority means. We're talking about minority in the simple numerical sense. Black Americans, which includes those of Caribbean, African, and Latin American descent, only make up 13% of the general population of America. So by definition, they are a minority. You're overthinking it. We're not talking about minority as far as their views. We're talking about minority as far as the their numerical representation within the general population. They are a minority. Trauma, fell massages, cockeyed. Must be a. I don't know what you're trying to say, but um, I was referring to Charleston White. I was saying he's cockeyed. Eric DeGuapo says, Hayden, although we are all American, we are all belong to other subgroups such as white, black, Christian, etc. And there are cultural differences with each group. Exactly. Like I said, Hayden, you're overthinking it. Like I said, when I refer to minorities, I'm only referring to ethnic minorities in the sense that they are a minority numerically within the general population. You are taking it somewhere else. What's up, Noise the Music? DC and Marvel both. I'm both a DC fanboy and a Marvel fanboy. Um, like my favorite superhero is Batman, so I'm slightly leaning more to DC to Marvel, but most of the superheroes that I like are actually Marvel. It's just that my favorite happens to be Batman, who's a DC superhero. Plus, I like DC heroes a little bit better overall, just because, like I said, DC heroes are meant to be heroes that you can aspire to, whereas Marvel superheroes are like pe- regular people who become superheroes, so they're supposed to be more relatable, which was the whole Marvel realism of the 60s and 70s. It's kind of changed a little bit, where DC back in the 90s started hiring Marvel writers and it became darker and more gritty. But generally speaking, that was the distinction between DC and Marvel. Was DC were these godlike heroes that people can aspire to become, and motivate them to be better, whereas Marvel superheroes were men who become more godlike, so they're more realistic and relatable. Like someone like Spider-Man, who has constant problems, like knowing whether he can pay his bills. Like that's not something that Clark Kent or Bruce Wayne or Diana Prince is going to worry about, right? Head over heels is back. He said, "Go Buffaloes." At least I know whom you're talking about now, after you and some other folks explained it. Daniel, chill. Hayden says, "You say by definition, but have you ever thought about how it's measured by what?" I don't know. Again, I don't know what you're on. Like I've explained it. I've made it clear what I meant. So if you choose not to understand that, that's on you. Minority simply reflects a numerical representation of people within a general population of a given society. No more, no less. If you, like, you have some hang up on the word minority. I'm a rational person. I use words through their necessary and sufficient conditions to define them. Eric DeWapple says, I don't think we are all the same. There are clear differences between us all. What matters is how we treat each other, right? Kevin O'Leary says 1619 was Britain, not America. America was founded in 1776. I didn't say, all right. So the American colonies were established in 1607 with Jamestown, right? The Jamestown colony in Virginia. However, they were kind of like obliterated. Then in 1619, they reestablished the colony and they brought in African slaves at the time. So what I'm saying is 1619 is when Africans were brought to America, who are the and black people are the American descendants of those slaves. Starting in 1619, that is the start of foundational black Americans. And like I said, the 1600s were the start of American colonies, whether they were still part of Great Britain or not. We're not discussing, that's not the discussion, is whether they were Britain or such and such. Even during the Revolutionary War, most American colonists at the time still considered themselves British. So, you know, that's why the whole thing about when the guy went around saying the British are coming, the British are coming. That's not what he actually yelled. First of all, he didn't even he wasn't even the one that alerted everyone. So, but it was because of a famous poem that people believe that. But he didn't say the British are coming because most American colonists at the time still considered themselves British. He he probably would have more like said the redcoats are coming, but and it wasn't him. It was some other. It was two other guys who went ahead of him. But anyway, that's besides the point. We're not talking about how we defined the American colonies at the time. We're talking about in the time of the American colonies in 1619. That was when Africans were first brought to America, and we are the descendants of them. And that's why a lot of us start calling ourselves foundational Black Americans, FBA, or American Descendants of Slavery, ADOS. I don't see the Don Cheadle resemblance either, Eric. People just keep saying that because that's the close. That's one of the only Black celebrities they can think about. Like I said, the guy's like has at least 10, 15 years of age on me. He's slightly darker, has slightly different facial features than I do. Um, he's a hell of an actor. Like I said, the first time I remember him in a movie was The Rat Pack, when it was him and what's the Italian guy who just died last year. His last movie was in Cocaine Bear. He played Frank Sinatra. That movie was awesome back in the 90s. You know, they all did the thing of the Rat Pack with Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, um, all of those guys. That was the first movie in. I saw him in. It was awesome, but I don't think I look anything like the cat. Red Hulk, Green Hulk is back. He said, "Hey, you're that super smart guy who talks about philosophy and stuff." Yes. So right now I'm talking about or trying to talk about if people will stick to the subject. I keep getting some guy trying to debate me on the word minority is talking about interracial relationships and if that's a problem with people who consider themselves pro-black. So I don't consider myself a part of the pro-black movement, and we can get into why. He said, "You answered almost everything. It feels like your chat can't get enough love because of that last time I saw you." Well, since the last time I saw you, I hit 1,000 subs. So we celebrated that yesterday when I did like a little chat on hip hop, since that's something I rarely discuss. But yeah, you know, I'm, I don't mind. I know I'm a small fish in a big pond here when it comes to YouTube. And I'm sorry, I don't see the Don Cheadle resemblance. If someone wants, if someone wants to put up the picture of Don Cheadle in the chat and to make the comparison, then you're more than welcome to do so. But I think only to non-black people that I look like Don Cheadle, because I don't think to most black people I look like Don Cheadle. Eric Guapo says, "I never got into Marvel as much as I love comics. The only Marvel books I own is Miracle Man." Wait, there's a Miracle Man in Marvel as well? I know the Miracle Man in DC. And I own and the Beavis and Butthead books my granny got me. Eric, you sound ancient. Nah, Eric's a good dude. And I think Eric is younger than I am. James Eric says they have the largest college placement and so on. Anyway, just a thought, not married to it. Yeah. All right, anonymous so and so is gone. Eric says not ancient yet, but getting there. We're just more seasoned, Eric. That's what we tell him. We're not old. We're seasoned. Men age like fine wine. Women age like raisins, like grapes in the sun. Thanks, Red Hawk, Green Hawk. Mm. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Kevin. I'm always going to be behind a few minutes in a chat because I'm trying to catch everyone's comments. So, if it's something worth replying to, I can reply to, IRL as a, as opposed to just skimming down. Because especially once I start talking, I lose, I'll lose track of what's been said. So I'm always going to be a few moments behind. So you guys got to give me a little bit of grace with that. Bat SHYT crazy says, "What's up? What's up?" And Red Greenhill took it back to like 2000. What's up? Congrats on 1,000 subs. Thank you. RHGH, you recommend this channel? I've never heard of it. He's also, we can't expect Don Cheeto to look like your twin, man. He kind of looks like you. You're tripping. If you say so. James Eric says, I think it's been interesting being a white guy with a black girl. I feel like the opposite pairing is more scrutinized. So the lucky thing is it's 2024. And because of the blessing versus, was it blessing or Plessing versus Virginia decision about 70 years ago, it allowed interracial marriage to be legal in America. I don't think that's a Supreme Court decision that will ever be reversed just because many conservatives themselves are for interracial relationships as long because political conservatives are more interested in you having the same ideas as them, not you necessarily being the same race as them usually. Unless we're talking about the far right, that's a whole different category. But many moderate to hardline conservatives really don't care as long as you share their beliefs. Like our former governor in Maryland, Hogan, he was married to a Korean woman, and he actually used that to our advantage, so that during the pandemic, he was actually able to go to South Korea and secure provisions for Maryland for like like uh, COVID mask and all sorts of stuff like that through his connections with his wife, who acted basically as a foreign diplomat, and he got the red carpet treatment when he came to South Korea. So, and now Hogan is actually running for senator of Maryland since he's already been governor twice here. But again, he's uh, I guess you would say maybe a moderate conservative, Republican. Red Hawk Greenhouse says he's smart, and if you're into it, you into it. Yeah. Batshit crazy says Asian folks do best academically. Some Jews too. So here's the skinny on that. So I'm not going to be politically correct, but at the same time, I'm also going to be um, pedantic when it comes to what the research actually says. Right? Give me a second here. Um, some first of all, Asians are not a homogenous group. So within the whole AAPI, you have East Asians, you have Southeast Asians, you have South Asians, you have Central Asians, and you have Middle Eastern people, and you have Pacific Islanders. They are not all represented the same in academics, especially because it depends on their means of coming here. Like if they came here through the very meticulous um, migrant process, then they tend to overperform both professionally and academically because the way that our immigration process it only favors people who are already like sort of the creme de la creme of their particular societies, right? Whereas a lot of Southeast Asians came here as refugees during wars, like whether you're talking about Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Philippines, um, as well as the Hmong, which were a group that was in many different groups within Indochina, and those folks are often underrepresented academically. However, because of the stereotype of Asians being the the um, the good minority group, the model minorities, so to speak, the ones who aren't doing well kind of fall into the shadows because no one has sympathy for them because of the whole stereotype that all of them perform well academically, which isn't true. It kind of depends on the group. Like the highest performing are like Indian Americans, followed by like Chinese and Korean Americans, Japanese Americans, um, and there's also a division within them. Like if you actually hear them talk within their own community, they have a whole situation going on similar to within the black community between black Americans and migrant black people who come from like Africa, Caribbean, and Latin America. So they have these similar issues too, times times two. But they're a lot of them overperform simply because, like I said, through the immigration process, they only select those who are already well educated or have resources to come here, whereas other groups from Asia who came here as refugees or maybe even came here illegally, and so they are not always the most academically successful folks. Jewish folks as well have had you know a good representation academically as well. And then part of that is that when you look at the IQ scores of some of these groups, they overperform in the IQ tests. So the highest performing demographic for the IQ tests have been Ashkenazi Jews, followed by East Asians. Um, Northwestern European falls somewhat in the middle, like, and all the way at the bottom are uh, indigenous people and then black people. So often, as IQ is a high positive predictor of academic success, it's only going to make sense to the groups who perform well group wise, that is, not individually, but group wise, perform well on the IQ, also going to perform well academically. But that's a topic for another day. Red Hole Greenhouse says he was asking if if I recommend your channel, I think. Okay, I'm sorry. That shit says wax pedantic is underrated. Trust me, I can get way more pedantic, but I save that for like my like academic conversations because I can get start using a lot of jargon, and I try not to. And then when I do use jargon, I try to break it down to people so they understand. Like just when the other guy early kept raving about minority, and I kept telling him you're overthinking it. The way I'm defining it is just a numerical representation of people within society. He kept trying to take it to he kept trying to conceptualize it in a different way. Red Hawk Greenhouse says, it just seems to me the nature of human society is to be grouped multiple times from smaller to bigger structures, starting with the family, and you can't tell a lot based on where the things start. Um, Preppy NY says, are you married? Yes, I've said it multiple times. I know you're just new here, so I don't mind. But yes, I'm married. My wife will actually be posting something within a few days to celebrate me hitting 1,000 subs. And you'll probably people will start to see more of her on my channel now that I've hit 1,000 subs. I wasn't going to use her to get monetized, so I said after I hit 1,000 subs, I'll start showing her more in my videos, just so that people can see I'm not some incel or something. But I've already have a few short YouTube shorts with her in them doing things, but I've kind of left her out of being directly in the videos. She also did like a very cool video walking through one of the typical malls in the Philippines, showing that unlike here in America where most malls are dying, malls over there are thriving, and they have the largest malls in the world over there. Um, um, Baby Snaps is gone. So yeah, for me, I don't really trolls. And I said this in almost every live stream. I don't really go hard at trolls just because I think most of them are probably people under 18 who have nothing better to do with their lives, and they're probably just a symptomatic uh, problem of the American education system. Either that, or like I said, they're adults with neck beards living in their basement who probably need to be on a government watch list because they're probably the next person to shoot up a church or something. James Eric says, have to go shopping. Have a nice night. James, come, do your thing. This will be uploaded later, so if you think it might be something worth catching, then you'll have the ability once I upload this. But I appreciate you checking in, buddy. Thanks. So let me just go into my little whole rant here, since we didn't really go into it. So you get this constant bickering within the black community about whom you should date and stuff like this, and you have these pro-blackity blacks like this guy who came into the chat yesterday who wanted to dick police black men for their choices. Here's the reality: black men are some of the most desired men on the face of the earth, so now they have the choice of the litter of what women they can date, which wasn't the case several decades ago. Well, it's always really been the case, but I would say in the mainstream media, it didn't look that way because black women had did a lot to make black men look bad in mainstream media for like the last 50 years, from like from Oprah to Sally Jesse Raphael to all these little trashy daytime talk shows. It made men look bad. Then you had these black authors who wrote dumb shit that made black people look bad. There's literally still black women who think The Color Purple is a work of history, like, and not realizing it's a fictional novel, and that it does not correlate to any real historical moments. But to hear them say it, they still think The Color Purple is real. Not to mention that most of them, I don't think, have actually read the whole novel. They've just seen the movie, because the original movie by Steven Spielberg, it only covers half the book. The other half of the book shows Celie and Mister actually becoming very close friends. He apologizes for how he treated her in the first half of the book and actually starts to fall in love with her. But she says, no, let's just remain good friends. And she's also lesbian, but they couldn't show that directly in the 80s version of the movie. But, she basically became lesbian, but they became really good friends, she and Mister. And he went about trying to right all his wrongs that he did to her in the beginning of the novel, but they don't show that in the movie because they only show the first half for brevity's sake. But they could have made a sequel to the first movie and then showed that later, but that probably wouldn't have been as exciting or stuck to the narrative that black men ain't shit. What's up, Hayden? You haven't missed much. So so now it's been a call and celebrate amongst pro blacks to kind of shame other black men for not dating black. You see this with Dr. Umar Johnson with his little crackerjack box PhD in psychology. I don't take that clown seriously, and pretty much no one, to be honest, pretty much no black guy takes Umar Johnson seriously unless they're also a hotep. Like people who aren't hoteps don't take Umar Johnson seriously. They take now there are some pro black folks that are taken more seriously within the community, like Tariq Nasheed. Um, but again, I disagree with the whole black has to date black. To me, that's stupid. And for one, I'm not sexually attracted to black women, so and I haven't been since college. I mean, I think that started opening up because one, when I lived in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago, um, I switched from predominantly black public schools to a predominantly white school where there was a mix of people, and I would have crushes on black girls or white girls. I remember, you know, and then skip forward to high school and middle school, same thing. I was kind of equal opportunity. And then once I moved to the DC suburbs to Montgomery County, you know, at the time, Montgomery County was the wealthiest county in the in the country, and it still is within the top five wealthiest counties in the country. But I think Howard County has superseded it, um, as well as uh, um, parts of some of the counties in Northern Virginia, which are right outside of DC, and as well as like Westchester County in New York and Orange County in California and so forth. But anyway, it's still in the top five, and it was one of the most culturally diverse places. Like just within my own community alone, I could go down a block and find people of different races. Like I'll go down a block and I can smell curry chicken. Matter of fact, one of my best friends that last year at high school was East Indian, so uh, it was pretty diverse. And that, of course, when you are offered, when you when you're when you go from only eating Kellogg's cornflakes to being able to get the whole multi pack with corn pops and Rice Krispies and Fruit Loops and and all that stuff, you're gonna find cereals that you like better than just plain Kellogg's cornflakes. And that happened with me. Like I just found that non-black women were more attractive to me, and that's a problem for pro-blacks because they need to police black men in order to keep their whole charade going. And here's the truth about the pro blackity blacks, I call them, but the whole black power movement, it's it's fugazi. Like the black power movement has been around since at least the 60s, if not the 50s, and Dr. King abhorred them himself. He thought they were like not not good for the cause. Like they've never done anything that actually helped the black community. The best thing that they did was instill a sort of ethnic pride or positive self concept amongst the black youth. I'll give them that. But beyond that, they have never really done anything within the last 60 years that's helped the black community. So when an ideology or set of social political beliefs is tested in the real world for over half a century and it produces no results, that's pretty strong evidence that that um that set of beliefs or ideology or way of life is not very useful. And not to mention that they're over those 60 years, their beliefs have constantly changed and have become sort of incoherent. You're gone, whatever your name is. Tracy Daniels says, I need to Google that. Fugazi, Italian for fake. People have been saying that basically since uh, the mob movie came out, Donnie Brasco, because for people who don't know, I'm a huge mob movie nerd. I love mob movies. Donnie Brasco was a really great mob movie, not just because of it starring Al Pacino and Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is at his best when he plays a cop, which he literally played in his first outing as an act when he played in 21 Jump Street back in the 80s. After, I think he was I think he became more popularly known for 21 Jump Street than as the kid from Nightmare on Elm Street. But in any case, it was really good because it started using some of the actual stuff that people had learned about the mob, like how they actually talk, how they actually set up their Costa Nostra and stuff like that. So Donnie Brasco was more realistic than maybe some of the previous mob movies that came out. Yeah, it just means fake. Fugazi. It's like, hey, you want this diamond ring? That's Fugazi. Forget about it. So, trying to sell me some CZ over here. Cubic zirconium. But yeah, so anyway, so I have no patience with these pro-blackity blacks. And like I said, O'Shea Duke Jackson is another one of these little clowns that harp on this pro-blackity black shit. Um, Whatever. Like, you're not gonna tell another man whom he should date. Like, you're not gonna shame me into telling me whom I should date, especially if I'm not attracted to those folks that you want me to date just out of racial solidarity. That's the dumbest fucking thing in the world. Trust me, Tracy, you'll find a way to use it. Think of, I'm pretty sure you can put Drake and Fugazi together in a myriad of ways. um, and like I said, my problem with the pro-black movement is, like I said, it's been devoid of any results. So even if you think it's a good ideology, it's not. It has. It's not pragmatic. So not only is it devoid of, I think, social reality, it's not even useful. Like, all it is just meant as a way to police the black community by people who make a living as civil, as like basically community activists. I have a friend that does it. And like I said, he and I are still cool, but I don't rock with him like that. Like, he was also from Baltimore, like I am. He's FBA, Foundational Black American. After we both graduated from University of Maryland College Park, but afterwards he went on this whole little journey as this pro-black activist, and kind of shunned all his friends from College Park. Like, he pretended that he graduated from Howard University and is all this stuff. I'm like, why are you pretending like you went to a HBCU when you went to a predominantly white university with me? And he was just on some bullshit. And I had joined his little Facebook group, which was about black businesses and stuff like that. Except it wasn't really about black businesses. It was just a bunch of posts that talked about pro-black issues. Like, and it just exhibited the lack of coherency within the Black Power um, movement, or whatever you want to call it. Some also say Afrocentric or conscious or woke. What for? And for those guys who don't know, woke actually started off as a term within the black community. It meant just like conscious or whatever it meant staying aware of racial oppression and stuff like that. But then it got hijacked by white liberals to mean identity politics. That wasn't the original definition of woke. Eric Roker says, "Bring back the Black Panthers." They actually still exist, to believe it or not, but they just don't make waves anymore. They're not the the folks that they were back in the 70s. And then you also have the Neo Panthers, which are more or less a gang. Because you see a lot of these groups still like in prison. You got the Black Panthers, the Neo Panthers, and some groups that that spun off of the Panthers, who are basically just gangs. I don't want to get into that because there's a lot of them in Baltimore. um, you said you should have wrote this shit down before you start talking about it. Well, this is a live stream, so I'm not going to write a script for what I'm going to say. Also, I know that I'm not going to go off on a I'm not going to do a large soliloquy on a live stream when I have people commenting and I want to respond to them. So I'm not going to write a large speech. That's never how I've done this platform. You're more than welcome to do that on yours, with all due respect. But I've always ad-libbed these, even in my pre-recorded videos. I ad-lib. I don't write. I don't do things from a script. Tracy said down says, and I'm white. Okay. For some reason, I thought you was and no offense here, I thought you was a black woman, Tracy. But, yeah. And so what we see now with like the passport bros and stuff like that, like a lot of black men are exercising their options. We saw this during the rise of Kevin Samuels. Like, the funny thing is black women tore that man down and actually mocked him when he died, not knowing the disservice they were causing themselves. Like, yes, you may have won the war, but at what cost? It was a Pyrrhic victory. If you guys don't know what a Pyrrhic victory means, a Pyrrhic victory refers to a famous war in Hellenistic culture, where this war was won, but at such a severe cost that it wasn't worth it. And that's what happened with this gender war within the black community between black men and black women, is that it seems, at least in the media, black women had won the war, but at what cost? The cost was that black men had become indifferent to them. And Kevin Samuels' whole thing was trying to keep black relationships going, but in order to do so, he was telling these women they need to be more realistic. He told them, stop shunning average men and expecting average men to have the income and clout of entertainers and millionaires and stuff like that. And some of these women weren't even worth what they were asking for. Like, they had several children, several illegitimate children. They were overweight, they were over 30, and they were demanding that they have top-notch men. And I'm like, no, used cars don't demand new prices. And he even had formed a private group in Facebook that got together black women with high value men. And people also had a problem with him talking about high value men, which he did not define. That is something that actually came out of the 80s, and he basically started using that to emphasize what some of these women are looking for. And his question to them is, do you qualify for these men? So he started a private Facebook group where the women who do qualify for high value men, he could link to high value men also looking for women. And to his credit, he didn't allow non-black women within that group because he wanted to keep black relationships going. He actually fostered several relationships which ended up in a marriage. But to these black women who were mad because they were fat, over 30, and had multiple children by men who weren't their husband, they saw him as the devil incarnate, not knowing it was a lot of men who supported him, not just black men. There were men of all races that supported him. There was even so there were even celebrities that supported him, some quietly so and some publicly so. But he had a lot of support before his untimely death. And what happened was when he died, and mind you, the Passport Bro group movement started before he died. But when that man died, and all these black men saw these women mocking this guy in his death, when the only thing he was trying to do was keep black relationships going by trying to emphasize to black women they needed to be more realistic. Not to mention he was actually harder on the men than on the women. But black men didn't shun him for the fact that he was hard on them. They welcomed it because it made them improve, whereas black men didn't want to take any sort of accountability for their behavior. So they mocked and ridiculed him when he had his untimely death. A lot of black men said enough is enough. We're not dealing with them anymore. And you had two groups that came out of that online. You had the SYSBM, which is Save Yourself Black Men, which basically meant leave the black community and leave black women. That was the Save Yourself Black Men movement. Then there was the Passport Bro movement, of which I consider myself a part of, because I literally went overseas and found my wife, got married overseas, lived there for a bit, came back and forth. Still have a house overseas. So I identify with both of those movements, and you can't blame them for feeling that way because you mocked a man who was like, trying to do something productive, but you didn't like his him having these hard conversations. And usually it would be highlighted online when he went off on someone, but he only went off on someone when they was trying to be disrespectful to him. Mind you, he was in his 50s and he had women in their 20s and 30s talking down to him, a grown-ass man who's very educated and at the top of his career. He was also a professional image consultant. He used to be a chemical engineer. And they talked down to this man like he was their age or younger. So yeah, so sometimes he leaned on them when they did so. And most of us celebrated it because we see that sort of emasculation of black men by black women all the time in the community, and they were doing it to him on his live streams, and he would fire back at them. And yeah, it was some of those moments became viral. The first one was the one that says, a woman who's average at best, and that sort of was the powder keg moment for all his content up until his death. But he was doing content before that, but it mostly focused on self-improvement for men. Let me get back to these comments. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm always going to be a few minutes behind in the chat, especially when I talk, because the comments are still flowing as I talk. Eric Rogan says, "Why do you think there's no black mafia like there is for the Italians, Irish, and Chinese?" There is black mafia. You never heard of BMF? So there's BMF, which is literally the black mafia family. There's actually an entire TV show about that 50 Cent produces on the Stars channel. They are very well known around the world. I mean, well, around the nation within the underground. They started off in Detroit and became known all over. A lot of your favorite rappers were probably funded by BMF, people like Fabulous and DJ Clue and stuff like that. Uh, they they were organized drug syndicate, and they're not the only ones. There was in Philly, there was a group called the Black Mafia who worked as basically hitmen for the Italian mafia for Costa Nostra. Most of them got sent to prison, and then they splintered off into a little gang called JBM, or Junior Black Mafia. But they weren't the same as the original Black Mafia, which was an actual organized syndicate within Philadelphia. And then I'm pretty sure most people can talk about the other cities that they know of which they've had black organized crime. There was there was black organized crime within New York. Like you look at Harlem back in the day. Bumpy Johnson, right? He was part of the black mob at the time. The difference was, you know, when they worked with the Italians and so forth, they couldn't rise up within the ranks of the Italian crime families because they weren't Italian, nor even Sicilian. Back then, with Costa Nostra, it's changed over the years because the numbers of people joining organized crime has gotten smaller as Italians have been able to live within mainstream white America. But back in the early periods of American history, Italians were not considered white, nor were Irish people, nor were Jewish people, nor were most Eastern Europeans like Greeks and so forth. So a lot of them started off, you know, in organized crime because that was the only way they could make a decent living outside of like maybe having some mom and pop store or whatever. And usually the only place you saw Irish getting hired was like fire departments and police departments. That's why there's a strong Irish tradition within law enforcement because that was one of the few places that they could find legitimate work back in the 18th, 19th, and even early 20th century. Black people were the same. A lot of these people had their hooks within the underworld. Um, but yeah, black people definitely have been part of have been in the mafia, not the Italian mafia, not Costa Nostra or the Chicago's what they call themselves the syndicate or whatever, and some of these other groups. But yeah, black people have definitely been in organized crime throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Like I said, look up Bumpy Johnson and people like that, or the folks that came around in the 60s and 70s, like Nicky Barnes and the guy that Denzel Washington played in American Gangster. We've been in organized crime, but it hasn't been as much movie representation. Mr. Samuel said you can't have 5 baby daddies and expect a high value man. Exactly. I mean, that's just common sense. Used cars don't get new prices. Don't get new car prices. It's unrealistic. It's just like a man working at McDonald's shouldn't expect to marry a supermodel. Women in general just like to be offended. Western women, yes, which is a whole reason why the passport bro movement has sought to find traditional women overseas, because from our perspective, a lot of America is just toxic because it reinforces cultural values that are kind of antithetical to healthy relationships. Hayden says wise men look for accountability and constructive criticism to better manage where they typically fail. True. The other Eric is back. What's up? So I got both Erics in the chat again. He says guys are always way tougher on each other. I agree. Exactly. Like black women thought he was picking on them, not realizing he was just being he was basically acting like a tough father. He was basically being like a stern father to them, and they didn't like it. but he was way tougher on the men. Like the chats he used to, the live streams he used to have with men, he used to go hard at them. And these dudes used to get upset, especially some of these guys who've never had a father figure in their life and only have been raised around single mothers. They're a bit soft and effeminate, and so they've never had these stern talks with another with an older black man, and they used to get offended. But overall, the black men in in general, didn't dislike that man. They liked him for the work that he did and for you know, keeping our feet to the fire. But black women were abhorrent to any such accountability. And like I said, that's because for over 50 years, they've had this narrative that black men ain't shit. And so the narrative from black women stemming all the way from Oprah, who had made a bunch of lies. She's recently come out and corrected some of them because people called her out on her shit for her trashy talk show back in the 80s and 90s. But coming from people like her, black men weren't shit. They, as black fathers, they weren't in their children's lives. And then there was a bunch of census and statistics, behavioral statistics. Excuse me. There was a bunch of census data and behavioral statistics that showed that black men were actually the most involved in their children's lives. And this was government data coming out, not something subjective. And so Oprah had to give a big mea culpa for spreading the lie that black men were absentee fathers. She spread that myth through her little dumbass talk show. So I would never fuck with her. So when people were saying she should run for president, I would never vote for that bitch. Straight like that. And like I said, she and all these other little trashy talk shows and all these black female novelists spread this narrative that black men weren't shit, that all the good ones were either married or gay, the rest were locked up. It was like, no, it's just that the ones that you want, you don't qualify for, so you only get Pookie and Ray Ray. But there's others out there besides Pookie and Ray Ray. They are high value black men out there. It's just they don't qualify for them. Hayden says, yeah, that in itself is the definition for a feminine and masculine figure, right? Tracy Daniels also says MGTOW. MGTOW is similar to SYSBM, but it's not. MGTOW, SYSBM is different. One, SYSBM is just black men, whereas MGTOW is like everybody, not just black men. Plus, MGTOW is more aligned with incel culture because a lot of them have just people in MGTOW have pretty much just decided they're not going to deal with women at all, and I don't think that's healthy. Like just saying, well, I'm just not going to deal with women anymore. That's kind of it's kind of nihilistic, and I don't think that's psychologically healthy. So that's the difference between like MGTOW and SYSBM. But I mean, I can't fault someone for doing MGTOW, but like I said, I don't think it's healthy to just abandon um, having relationships with women for men who like women. That is. Zank says cope. What's up, Zank? By the way, Eric Roca. So I'm sorry, we got three Erics in here. So it's Eric Roca, Eric Lapointe, and Eric the Guapo. So three Erics in the chat, guys. I don't want to confuse the three. Eric Roca says, not trying to generalize, but most black women, especially within their groups, tend to be needy and have narcissistic tendencies. I wouldn't disagree. Like I said, here's another factoid that is not politically correct. When you look at dating apps on social media, like Tinder, OkCupid, Bumble, all these things. There's data showing who are the most desirable and least desirable. So for females, the least desirable are black women. The most desirable are Asian women. With men, the least desirable are Asian men, and the most desirable is white men, followed by black men. So that kind of tells you right there. And it's not just about beauty or the aesthetics of black women, because a lot of people find them very attractive. It's their behaviors and attitudes which turn a lot of men off from dating them, including a lot of black men. A lot of black men are still very much attracted to black women, but they don't want to deal with them. And for the guys who can travel, they don't need to. They can still get black women just outside of America. Like for people who don't know, Brazil has a higher black population than the U.S. In fact, it's the highest outside of the continent of Africa. Brazil has the highest black population in the world outside of Africa itself. So much higher than the United States. So when these women are chastising these men, saying they don't want black women because they travel overseas, a lot of these guys still go to countries where there's still a lot of black women. They're just not black American women. They're not FBA. Brazilians. There's a lot of Afro-Colombians. There's black women in Venezuela, and Guyana. And when I'm talking about Guyana, I'm talking about Latin America Guyana, not African Guyana. Then as well as the Caribbean, like pretty much all the Caribbean are black folks. Like what So for the guys who still are, so for the black men who are still attracted to black women, they just don't want to deal with black American women and their problems. They travel overseas to Colombia, Dominican Republic, Brazil, places in the Caribbean like Jamaica, Bermuda, Trinidad, um, all these places that they have options. And because black men have seen themselves solidly put in the middle class, most of them have the financial means to travel and meet women overseas. And then you have digital nomads, a lot of people who make their living online or can work remotely, so they can actually live in those countries as well. Vaughn says Cooper rope out here. I don't know what that is. Hayden says, and it only becomes more common as it becomes less of a race thing and more of an entitlement issue. Yeah. Tracy Daniel says, I'm a white woman and have been told by the hags on The View that I can't comment on the black women. Because, again, that I don't know if you were in the chat earlier, but I was saying that this is a conversation that I don't mind having with everyone, but some people within the black community don't want us talking to people outside of the black community about these issues like interracial relationships, because like I said, they want to dick police black men. And I'm saying this is mostly coming from black women and their hotep allies. Hotep meaning like the whole pro-blackity, black Afrocentric, black power fist type people. And yeah, a lot of those people on, like, here's the thing, Tracy. No guy, and I'm not just talking about black guys. I'm talking about, I don't know any guys who are well, no, I don't know any straight guys who are black, white, Latino, or Asian that gives a fuck about anything that those women talk about on The View. Like, none of us care. The only time I even know about what's going on in The View is when they're showing like snippets of it on like a particular YouTube program that I'm watching. But not one straight man cares about anything that those women discuss on The View. It's like a bunch of chickens just clucking. Hayden says everyone can comment on everyone. Without it, the world can't go around. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I understand certain conversations being within a particular community, but like I said, when it involves people outside of the community, then people outside of the community should have a voice in it. I think that makes sense. He said, yes, opinions and constructive criticism and those comments help better make a melting pot. or tossed salad, because I think looking at America, I think a better symbolism is a tossed salad where everyone has their different flavors and varieties, but they all come together to make this salad. But they don't lose their own identity in becoming a part of that salad. The lettuce still has its unique part. The crouton has its own unique part. The tomato has its own unique part. The cucumber only has its still has its unique part. But they all come together to make this one meal. Whereas a melting pot, everyone loses their identity, and I don't think that's a salient way to look at it in today's world, where people still want to have their own uh, ethnic identity within America. Hayden says canceling is fear mongering by those that are unwilling to accept and hear the truth. Tracy says, I cannot tell a black woman that I like her hair. It's considered a microaggression. Depends on whom, probably, yeah, but it depends with whom you're talking. Like, black women have to get over it, especially the ones who travel, because that's usually, they always say that women want to grab their hair or touch their hair and stuff like that. And it's just because it's not a racism thing. It's just these people, some of these places where they travel, these people have never seen black people outside of like TV or movies. And so the first time they come up to people, it's, it's a thing. Like, my wife told me she wanted to touch my hair, but she didn't, until, until we first embraced, and then like she felt my hair. I didn't even notice. And I know her mom asked could she touch my hair. I didn't mind. Like, I just didn't take that as something that serious. But like I said, black women have a lot of issues with their hair because of things with nappy hair versus pretty hair, and they have issues with their hair, which is another reason I don't want to deal with them, because dating a woman means a black woman means you will be paying for their hair maintenance, which can cost thousands of dollars a month. You would be surprised how much they spend on weaves and or hair um, stuff. Like, it's ridiculous. Hayden says it's because it's become more than just constructive criticism. It's now been turned into comment on me, give me what I want when it's convenient for me. Eric the Guapo says, I do it all the time, Tracy, but I'm handsome and fit, right? When you kind of, when you suave, kind of get away with some things, right? Like, an ugly guy can't come up to a woman and be like, hey, what's up? They be like, ew, get away from me. But, you know, you got a little swagger. You look good in a t-shirt. You're well groomed, smell nice. You go and be like, hey, what's up? She'll be like, hey, how you doing? Like, and you know that because even if they're in a relationship, they'll turn you down politely. Like, I've had women, reject me because they were in a relationship, but it was polite. It wasn't like mean. I've never gotten like a mean rejection, but I know that friends have. So Hayden says sometimes it's best to not fight, but people that stay silent out of fear will begin to hate those that stand. Yeah, sometimes it's not worth fighting. Like, I remember like 10 years ago, my younger sister was telling me that since, here in Baltimore, she was like, well, you're in your 30s. She was like, you're not going to find anyone your age that doesn't already have kids. And she was like, and you shouldn't be dating anyone that much younger than you. No one younger than 26. Like, I don't know where she got the number 26 from, but she said you shouldn't be dating anyone younger than 26. And pretty much everyone that age and older is going to already have kids. Plus, you shouldn't knock it anyway, because you might find someone you like. I didn't argue. I didn't disagree. I didn't say anything. What I did, you want to know what I did? I silently went to the internet, filled out an application and got this. That's what I did. And then a year later, I went overseas and found my wife. That's how I answered her irrational argument. I didn't fuss. I was proactive. So you can fight. It's just how you fight. It doesn't always have to be a verbal disagreement. Sometimes you can just fight with your actions. Yep, we got 3 Erics in the chat. Eric Lapointe. So anytime you guys make a comment, I'm gonna make sure to say your whole handle so that people know whom I'm actually responding to. I don't know, y'all guys forming like Voltron up in here. You only need 2 more. Zing says, I don't think this dude likes black women. So yeah, I've made that. So here's the thing. This is where I stand with the zinc, and I've said this in several videos that I've posted in the past with my friend. Not a live stream, but just like us having a conversation. Um, there is there are some things I dislike about them, but that's not the reason why I choose not to date them. My reason, if you didn't see the earlier part of the stream, was that I find other women more attractive. And also, I probably wouldn't date an American woman regardless of race because I think they've all been um, messed up through feminism and other ideas in the West that have made relationships more more volatile. Not to mention, you have nothing to gain in a marriage in America and all to lose because of the family court system. So for that reason, one, I'm not dating an American woman regardless of race, and two, I'm not choosing black women just because I find other women more attractive, particularly Asian women. I find them most attractive. And according to dating apps online, most people find East Asian women to be the most attractive as well. So I like how you did that batshit crazy. But when it comes to not liking them, there's reasons for that. So the esteemed attorney Dennis Sperling Esquire, if you guys haven't heard of him, he has a huge podcast here on YouTube, as well as he posts on Instagram and on Facebook. He's talked about this in numerous times. Kevin Samuels has talked about this numerous times. Many guys within the black manosphere have talked about this numerous times, but since I'm talking to a mixed crowd here, I'm pretty sure some of you may have not heard these reasons, and we can get into it. One of the things that black women will do to shame black men and to trying to get them to date them, which doesn't work, is they'll say, "Well, your mama black, or you must hate your mama," or stuff like that. And so Dennis Sperling addressed this yesterday. That's why I didn't want to talk about this topic yesterday, because he literally just did a live stream about this yesterday, and he talked about it um, a lot on his Facebook platform as well. That he said, yeah, the hidden truth about that is, yes, a lot of black men don't like their moms for a lot of reasons. Those women abused them as children, or they neglected them, they emasculated them, they were embarrassing to them. Um, they let their boyfriends abuse them and didn't do anything about it. They, you know, they had to go without a lot of things that other children had because they didn't come from a nuclear family, something that the West seems hell bent on destroying. A lot of them, Kevin Samuels and others, have highlighted how back during the 70s, like, black women kind of chose social welfare over having a black man in the house. Malcolm X himself said that welfare destroyed his family, which is why you see a lot of black men aren't for it. What else? And we can go into that. So yeah, when it comes to the truth of it, yes, a lot of black men don't like their moms, and that might be a reason why they choose other women, because they don't want to date women who resemble the woman who gave them hell throughout most of their life. Now I can go into it about my own personal experiences. I might do that in a separate video or another live stream. I don't really want to go into it in too much depth here. But yeah, there's a reason why there's an ongoing gender war between black men and black women. And like I said, for the last 50 years, black women had did nothing but trash black men in mainstream media. It's only now that we've recaptured our reputation within mainstream society, whereas black women's reputation within mainstream culture has dipped. We see them acting stupid online. We see them twerking all the fucking time for no reason. There was when they set up the Martin Luther King Memorial in Washington D.C. There was a bunch of women from the Black Lives Matter that went twerking in front of the Martin Luther King Memorial, saying that it was a symbol of them giving honor to Martin Luther King. I was like, did this come from a Boondocks episode from Aaron McGruder? Like, this gonna be more of a Boondocks episode if I tried. Like, it was these dumb ladies. Oh, I gotta censor myself. Out there twerking in front of the Martin Luther King Memorial when it opened up from the Black Lives Matter Foundation. Not only that, some of them a year ago went to the biggest slave port in West Africa. I can't remember where it's at. I think it's in. I can't remember if it's in Gambia or Liberia or one of those places on the coast of West Africa. It was it's now a historical site, but it was the largest slave port where they took the Africans and brought them to the West through the transatlantic slave trade. These chicks went out there and was twerking in front of the slave port, saying that they were doing that to for their ancestors and to get back at the slave traders. How? How? That shit's embarrassing. Then they go overseas and they embarrass themselves in other countries. On top of that, when the passport bro movement started off, because their shaming tactics didn't work on the black men who were traveling, because they just simply didn't give a fuck what these black women thought, they started insulting the women that they were dating. So they started insulting Latin and Asian women. And these Latin and Asian women start clapping back at them on YouTube and on other social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram. And it's basically made a lot of these folks overseas think much less of black women because of that. Like, you're gonna attack these women overseas who've done nothing wrong. It just happens that black men desire them and they happen to like the black men back. And so they start calling these women uneducated, desperate, poor, um, being manipulated on all this sorts of stuff, ostensibly to shame the black men, but it was really they were insulting the women to do so. Not to mention that, like, it's been, things going on, like they've got themselves in trouble in places like Dubai and stuff like that, because they don't realize men over there don't put up with the stuff that men in America and the UK do. Men in America and the UK have to eat humble pie all the time. Men in Africa or the Middle East and East Asia are not putting up with their shit. They will slap them, they will arrest them, they will put them in prison. You saw these women going to prison for doing stupid stuff like trying to slap men in Dubai or arguing with police officers and stuff like that. They've lowered their social reputations globally, and people are starting to see just how black men see them here in America, that they don't want to, and why we don't want to deal with them. Eric Rose says Southeast Asian women are the gold nowadays. They're beautiful, especially Philippine women. They kind of dominate the not the beauty pageants internationally every year. If they don't win, they're like usually within the top, the top contenders. Tracy Daniels says 6'1". I can't date an Asian. Yeah, you can. You go to Japan, there's a lot of Japanese men who will want you, Tracy. Trust me. They they have a fetish. A lot of East Asian men have a fetish for white women. So, people always say that, white men have a fetish for East Asian women. That may be true here, but overseas, a lot of East Asian men have a fetish for white women. Trust me. You go over Japan, it's going to be dudes drooling over you. Probably the same in South Korea as well. Trust me. I've been there. Trust me. Hagan said, "Yep, I used to have a bit of attraction to a black lady, but was turned off by her ill behavior." Exactly. Like I said, a lot of people still find them attractive, but they're turned off by their behaviors and attitudes. And a lot of non-black men are saying they see why black men don't want to date them anymore. Like, and a lot of them used to always shame black men for saying they were having all these illegitimate children. And when the statistics came out, it showed that over 51% of black men were single and childless, which meant that the black women who were dating these guys who had children and stuff like that they were basically dating within the same small pool of men, the Pookies and Ray Rays, and they were basically all getting into relationships and having children by the same losers, because most of the upwardly mobile black men weren't dating them. So I wish the guy Kunta Kinte had came onto this platform today, because he's the one who asked me to do this yesterday, and I said, yeah, I will talk about it. Like I said, I always keep my promises. If someone asks me to talk about something, I will talk about it. It just won't be when they ask, because I already had a topic of conversation yesterday, which was talking about hip hop. Sorry, guys, I have to get water. I've lost my voice earlier. Running in 88-degree weather. So yeah, as far as my personal preferences, I find East Asian women the most sexually attractive. Um, I see black women mostly as sisters and aunts. I don't see them as people I would want to date. I see them as like family members, and I don't want to date family members. And if people say, well, your mama black, well, you must not like your mama, well, there's some truth to that. But I won't get into it here unless someone really wants me to dig into that, and I don't think anyone has asked. By the way, is everyone still here? Because I can't see the number of here people anymore. Sorry, I had to reconnect. Looks like I had lost my connection, guys, so I can't see who's still in the chat. If you're still in the chat, give me a one, or just let me know you're still here. But I can't see who's still in because I just reconnected. And if you guys didn't hear everything that I just talked about, let me know and I can go over that again. So, oh, Eric the Guapo, if you're still here, I know you said you don't really ride with Marvel like that. What do you think about Ninja Turtles, though? This is one of those magazines I had from Free Comic Book Day. I'm about to dig into this today. I've read most of my free comic books so far. just that one and this one, which I don't plan on keeping. Most of the stuff from Free Comic Book Day I don't keep, except for like, it's usually only like one, maybe two that I'll keep that I really want. So the one that I kept was Star Wars #1, and I'm probably gonna keep this. There was a Transformers Anna John universe for Free Comic Book Day. I was gonna keep that until I found out it was year 2, not year 1. So I missed the whole run of it from 2023, and I really don't feel like finding. I'm not that invested to find out who wrote what previous to that. I mean, in the first year of the Anna John universe run, because it's three different it's three different things. It's um, part of it's GI Joe. Like there's a crossover with GI Joe in it. Let's see. Let's see what messaged me. The wife. And my homeboy. So yeah, probably gonna take a shower soon, guys, and go to the gym because I'm not going back outside. It's kind of hot. I haven't acclimated to the heat yet. But if you guys are still here, let me know. If not, I'm going to end this. But if you guys haven't already, please give me a like, subscribe, hit notifications, share. It really means a lot to help me with the algorithm and so forth. Because like I said, right now I can't see who's actually in the chat. Oh, by the way, Mrs. Contrarian is in the chat room, guys. Mrs. Contrarian, can you tell me how many people are in the chat? Because I can't see. I had to reconnect, and I can't see who's still here. Because after it reconnects, it doesn't show me the numbers. Or maybe you guys are leaving comments and I just can't see it. Okay, so it looks like there's 5 people here, but I don't know if I've lost, if my comments aren't showing up. But if so, Mrs. Contrarian, are people commenting and I can't see it? Because the last thing I saw was from Hayden on hiatus. He said, "Yep, I used to have a bit of attraction to a black lady, but was turned off by her ill behavior." That's the last comment that I can see. Has there been comments since then? Um, oh, so it looks like, so yeah, it looked like I can't even see my comments, guys. So I'm probably going to end this. Um, Mrs. Contrarian is also sending me the messages because I can't see my comments, but I can't see the screenshot she sent me of the comments. And I can't look at it on this phone because I'm using this phone while I'm doing this live stream with you guys. I saw that some people were making fun of The View. Like I said, The View is garbage, and so was the. There's another show just like The View, which is just as trashy. like I said, the only people that watch it are probably middle-aged women and or elderly women, because young women don't watch regular TV. Like people under the age of 30 um, don't watch regular TV anymore. Like most people who watch TV probably just use it for to see their favorite streaming platforms. So the only people watching shit like that are old people, like old middle aged women, retired people, stuff like that. Looks like Tracy had to go. I can't see the comments. I'm just looking at the screenshots that Mrs. Contrarian to send me. So bye, Tracy. Appreciate it. Again, if you guys can like, subscribe, hit notifications, share, all that good stuff. And it means a lot to help me with the algorithm. So I can get monetized and start sharing some higher quality content with you guys. But I'm doing all this for free, so I wasn't going to give like the A+ stuff for free. Like you get the reasonable stuff, right? Thanks, Tracy. I appreciate it. Have a great one. I can't see the chat, Eric. I'm sorry, Eric the Guapo. Um, he said, yeah, three of the four turtles died, and the lone turtle has all the weapons. And no, that's you're talking about the last. You're talking about the last Ronin. This happens after the last Ronin, because they just made us. They just made a last Ronin part two, which is weird because now they got other turtles to kind of take the place of his brothers. And we can drop spoilers now because the last Ronin now came out 2 years ago. The last Ronin ends up that everyone died. Splinter, three of the four turtles, and the last one standing is Michelangelo. It's a big spoiler alert. But again, we're on Last Ronin 2, where presumably everyone already knows that it's Michelangelo who's the last turtle standing. Um, but this is called Who is the Night Watcher? Uh, it's continuous with that. With I think it's I'm not sure if it's continuous with the last Ronin. It's more dealing with what's in continuity. The last Ronin, I think, is supposed to be sort of like a what if scenario, right? Sort of like how X-Men would have like these apocalypses that would happen, like future what was it, future something something. But X-Men is known for always having these apocalyptic scenarios that fall out of the continuity, or they might be in the continuity but alternate universe. So I think the last Ronin is the same thing with the turtles. It's not within the current continuity. This, I believe, is within the current continuity. I think. Let me give a quick look see. Um, yeah, I'm seeing all four turtles, so it's within the current continuity. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the last Ronin 2, which is the new one coming up, the new Turtles graphic novel, which is the sequel to the first Last Ronin that came out 2 years ago. Um, Everyone can say hello to Mrs. Contrarian because she's in the chat moderating for me, which is good because I can't see the chat for whatever reason. It I don't know if I can refresh it or not sure how I can get it back. Let me try something here. Oh, that didn't work. But in any case, since I can't see the chat, I'm just going to end this. unless someone else wanted to say something before I go about, like I said, the topic of discussion was interracial relationships and why pro blackity blacks, or whatever they like to call themselves, conscious, woke, Afrocentric, black power, whatever, like they have a problem with it. And for me, a lot of it is basic comes down to their their wallets. Like a lot of these pro black people make a living off of off of activism, and so that's why they try to dick police black men, because the biggest followers of these pro blacks are black women, because upwardly upwardly mobile black men don't care about the whole black power thing, because it doesn't benefit us. And the black power movement has been around for over 60 years and has barren has yielded no fruit other than giving us a positive self identity and ethnic pride. But beyond it, it has done nothing to make us more successful or anything else, or improve the black community. And a lot of these guys have a lot of these pro black dudes have a lot of smoke for black men, but don't say anything about black women. So yeah, I did see the Turtles and Batman crossover. They also did a movie. If you saw that, they did a movie based on the Turtles and Batman crossover. So if you haven't seen that, you should check that out. But they crossed over, like I think 2 or 3 times. Um, and I think they're with Turtles is under IDW. IDW does a lot of crossovers, like with Ghostbusters. I think they did crossovers with like Ghostbusters, Star Trek, Turtles. Um, I'm probably missing some, but yeah, IDW does a lot of crossovers with their different franchises within their publishing. Oops. Jeez. It's not working. The reason I can comment is that Mrs. Contrarian is actually giving me screenshots of the chat so that I can respond to you guys. Because I haven't been able to, ever since I reconnected, I have not been able to see any. Um, I haven't been able to see anything, and I don't know why. That's the literally the first time this happened, because there's been many other chats where I lost connection, and as soon as it came back, I was still able to see people leaving comments, even though I couldn't see the number of people in the chat. I could still see the chat as it happened. So that's why I say I'm going to end this, because unless someone had like a another question or comment about the whole pro black um, and interracial relationships and the divide within the black community about that, like a lot, you know, then we can kind of end it. But like I said, more black men are dating out because they have the opportunity to do so. Women of all communities find black men desirable, and we've kind of shed our bad reputation we had in the 90s and 80s, which was largely fostered by um, devious black women who gave us a poor image within mainstream media, making us portraying us as either criminals or absentee fathers, when the truth of it is that the amount of black men being incarcerated has gone down dramatically within the last few decades. And since U.S. Census data and other government statistics has actually shown that black men are actually the most involved in their children's lives. So they're not absentee fathers. Uh, the problem is that the black community doesn't have nuclear families like they used to. Up until the 50s, um, black people had the highest rate of marriages in the United States. But with the but as social welfare came along and black women chose to have social welfare than have a man in their home, we start seeing the deterioration of the black community and of nuclear families. And anyone who knows anything about social research or sociology 101 knows that the family is the basic unit of unit of a society. When you wipe out the nuclear family, you kind of destroy the community. And these women were very willing to do so to get a check from Uncle Sam. And they spread their little toxic beliefs and behaviors to their daughters. They had they made their black sons hate themselves, thinking there was something wrong with them. You had a whole genre of R&B music that basically taught black men to be simps. Like there was literally a Boys to Men song that said, "I will simp for you," or you had people like Ralph Tresvant saying, you need a man with sensitivity." The fall of Rome. Can I get a screenshot, Mrs. Contrarian? I'm pretty sure someone has something to say. Please. And Mrs. Contrarian is beautiful, by the way, guys. So I'm looking forward to whatever she's gonna post for you in a few days. And it's funny when I see a screenshot because it'll catch me in a particular moment with a facial expression, so it looks funny. Mrs. Contrarian, by the way, you know Don Cheadle, who plays War Machine in the Avengers. Do I look like him? Because people say that every time I do a live stream that I look like Don Cheadle, and I just don't see the comparison. Eric DeGuapo says I do not get along with ethnocentric people of any kind. Hey, I agree. Armani Perez says today is my birthday. Happy birthday, Armani. I just saw it. Sorry. Uh, and again, guys, I apologize. I can't see my chat. I'm going. I'll rectify that next time. Oh, Texas Carnage 817 is back. Dallas and six. That's definitely your favorite team. And thank you for telling me who one of the NBA legends was on that team, because I knew it was someone, and it was what David Robinson, right? Texas Carnage. Eric Lapointe is gone. Thanks, Eric, for chiming in. I like having the three Erics. Like I said, you guys need two more Erics in the chat. We need five Erics. We need to get five Erics in the chat. That way we can have you guys form like Voltron. And if you don't get that, then you're too young to get it. But yeah, so I might do another conversation about the pro-black, because today I'm just focusing on their incoherent views towards international interracial dating. Besides that, any child that a black man has is still gonna be black. So um, that's where I'm at, and I think that I'm gonna leave it there, guys. I'm gonna go shower and get ready for the gym, and that's about it. Unless there's any last comments, queries, questions, insights, um, proclamations, exclamations, no defamations. But not trying to sound like Johnny Cochran here with the alliteration, but it's funny. But unless that's it, I think Mr. Contrarian said that was the last in the chat that I commented on. Was that the last, Mrs. Contrarian? or is there still some stuff bubbling up? Because I'll give it a few seconds, few more minutes, in case someone was still typing something. Here we are. So, all right, guys. So, look like that's the end. All three Erics are dipping out. So when the Erics are gone, I'm gone. So, I appreciate it, guys. And if you do have any other questions or comments, once this stream uploads, you can check it out in its entirety, and you can leave any sort of questions and comments to the video upload. Okay, but I appreciate it. I'm gonna end this now. Mrs. Contrarian and I are gonna talk it up. All right. Thanks again, guys. And for anyone who hasn't yet, please like and subscribe, hit notifications, share if you like. Appreciate it. And if you feel comfortable doing so, you can always hit me on the Cash App or the Venmo. The Cash App is in my description. Uh, Once I monetize, I'm gonna start doing super chats instead of just these regular vertical live streams. I'm gonna start doing the super chats, and that way people can actually contribute, and we can talk about whatever they want to talk about. When they donate. All right, but I appreciate it. Thanks.